Good morning, teacher and class. My name is Isaac, and today I'm gonna make the rewind of the evolution of graphics and video games. Here's a friend of mine, Mario, and he's changed through the years. For instance, he looked like this in 1981 in the game Donkey Kong. But what was the first game? How it all started? It was with Pong in 1972. In this game, you had two columns that were used as rackets and a ball, and you played ping pong against the machine. As you can see, the game was monochromatic, with just black and white. So, in those times, the developers had the question of how to implement color in their games. So, the first approximation was in Boot Hill in 1977. There, they placed a translucent plastic sheet to simulate color, and there the cowboys shoot at each other in a colorful background. It was not until 1979 in the game Galaxian that the first microprocessor for color was used. This milestone in technology was pretty important. There, the spacecraft shoot at aliens of different colors, but the most important, as I just said, was that now you could play video games with color. Other kinds of technologies were launched. For instance, vectors. Their electrons beam moved around the screen, and that was different from the other technology that was render. That was in a linear motion, painting pixels. In the game Asteroids 1979, but a counterpart of this game was also released. The Space War was the same gameplay, but using render. The race between vectors and render was won by render. In games such as C-Views, Saxon, and Radarscope, it was used, but also these games itself set milestones. For instance, in C-Views, you had a scrolling shoot 'em. That's when you had your car, your spacecraft, and when you moved, also the background had motion. In Saxon, it was the first game with isometric view, and Radarscope had the first resizable characters. For example, when something was pretty far away from you, it was small, and when it got closer, it got bigger as well. Also, games such as Turbo, Hang-On, and Dragon's Lair were pretty important in the 16-bit architecture. Uh, for example, Hang-On had the best frame rate those days, and Dragon's Lair was a cinematic video game. Like in Black Mirror, it shows the what was going to do your character. So it was, um, in a graphics way, pretty good because of the designs, but as a gameplay, it was boring. The people didn't like it, so this kind of games of cinematics didn't age well. It was not until the starting of the 90s that the CPS-1 arcade board was released, and that uh, had the chance to create games such as Street Fighter 2. Street Fighter 2 was a milestone game that was pretty important for those days because it had a better motion in the characters, quite a great color palette, and the gameplay itself was pretty fun. Also, games such as Mortal Kombat and Donkey Kong Country were released with photoreal characters and rotoscoped motion. In Mortal Kombat, the rotoscoped animation or rotoscope motion was when it recreated the movement of a real human being in the fights. And Donkey Kong Country was the pinnacle of the 16-bit architecture. in the mid 90s, the raycasting in games such as Wolfenstein and Doom were the most important advancement in technology in those days. The raycasting one was when you create a 3D perspective in a 2D map. Uh, Back then, the computers were pretty slow, so this was the first solution for the first-person shooter games. Also, the polygon construction in games such as Crash Bandicoot in PlayStation 1 were important in the technology advancement, because now everything was made out of polygons. Just look at a Crash, the nose, the well, everything, the arms, also the plants are made out of polygons. Another important technology was the voxels in games such as Delta Force in 1998, where the voxels were volumetric pixels, like in a Minecraft style, but imagine that in a game that was a first-person shooter. It was pretty hard to the computers to render, and it didn't end well. It was said to be at the end of technology, but as an experiment, it was pretty good. With microchips getting better and better, such as the 3D FX Voodoo in the game Far Cry 2004, it was now known to be that it was not just gameplay, it was not just the graphics, but also the color palette, the design of the characters, because now it was not just 16 bits displayed in the arcade, but games that were with sunsets and with jungles and with ocean, and now the color palette was pretty important. In games such as Call of Duty 2 in the year of 2005, that it recreated the World War II, the color palette had to match to the equation. For example, you don't want to be in the middle of a fight of World War II and everything shiny and happy and orange and yellow and super fun, because it doesn't match the mood. So now the developers had to think more about not just the gameplay, but also the colors, the design. The Now every character had detail. The How to make a character that is from Russia, or someone from the United States, or from France, because now the details were important. The game Crisis in 2007 was a milestone, and also a meme for the gamers, with the meme of "Can it run Crisis?" because it was pretty heavy and pretty hard for the computers, with the specs of the Intel Core Duo, 2 gigabytes of RAM, 12 gigabytes of hard drive disk in the year 2007. It was pretty hard, but the color palette, the graphics, and the gameplay itself was the best of that era. Also, the styles such as cel shading in the game The Legend of Zelda changed a little bit how the progress was going, because with Crisis everything was like heavy games, like AAA games, but also games such as Zelda that were lighter for the computers, were easy to run with cel shading. Cel shading is when you had the borderline painted like well defined, and what's inside of the image of one single color. And the casual gaming led to Minecraft, one of the best games in history, because it is still played 10 years later in a massive way by kids, adults, and everyone basically has ever heard of Minecraft. And Minecraft has the technology based on voxels, because they are volumetric pixels. Also, Minecraft is important because a couple of reasons. And one of them is that the fans are part of the game because they create mods, they create shaders, they make the game even better. Now you don't have the same villains as in the beginning when the game was released, but now a lot of characters, a lot of stories that you could tell, and made the casual gaming even better. So, in one hand, we have AAA games like Crisis, Call of Duty, Forza, and in the other hand, we have casual gaming like Minecraft, Wii Sports, and almost every game made by Nintendo. So, what's now in the video game industry? What's the best now? What are the AAA games? That's what I'm gonna present you. These are the video games that use the best graphics in the 2021. And those are GTA 5, Forza Horizon 5, Left 4 Dead 2, and Crisis 5. Forza Horizon 5 is renewed, it was released a month ago, but the Forza Horizon 4 had great mods and the cars look real. I mean, these cars look even better than in real life. Also, the game GTA 5 uh, was like the best that the PS3 could do because now the video game companies such as Sony or Microsoft, even though we think that they are trying to release consoles every year and a half, every 2 years to make more money, and that's true. Also, they're trying to make the best out of their consoles. For instance, the GTA 5 was almost impossible to be run in a PS3, but they made everything to make it possible. And now, in the PS4 and release PS, well, there are a lot of PS now, the PS5, GTA 5 is a game that it's completely different than when it was released years ago, because now the mods and the graphic cards that are made actually made the game different, because now it looks pretty real. Just look at this image where you're walking and some parts are made out of ray tracing, others made out of the best renders ever seen. And the same with Forza Horizon, with Red Dead Redemption 2, that in Red Dead Redemption 2 some players even just walk around, well, gallop around in their horses, just watching the sunset and the fields and the clouds, and they just love it because it's beautiful. So nowadays we have the render and also ray tracing that is used in some parts of game for individual surfaces, but now in real-time ray tracing way. That is what the developers are aiming for. I hope you like the video, that you maybe learn a little bit, or just it was fun for you. Thank you very much, and see you.